Hi, do you remember these guys? This is Martin Luther and his wife Katie. And these paintings were done in like 1537, and Martin Luther and his wife they lived back then. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Martin Luther today, and the thing I want you to remember is that Martin Luther did a really hard thing, but he did what he knew was right, and he had biblical proof to support him and back him up. He did what was right, and it was very difficult, and it made his life very difficult. Sometimes when we do what's right, it's hard, and it makes our life hard, but we still have to do it whether we like it or not. So here we go. So I am Beth Ann Edwards, and I am Director of Arts, Handbells, and Youth Choirs at St. John's Lutheran Church in Des Moines, Iowa. I am here for today's Reflection Connection, and today is Thursday, July 22nd, 2021. So remember 500 years ago, and then 5 years ago, St. John celebrated the 500th anniversary of the Reformation. And that's the day when Martin Luther put his 95 Theses up on the door. So I'm going to read to you a little bit about Martin Luther and Lutheranism, and this is from the ELCA website, and it's under the subhead of ELCA teachings. It's called Luther and Lutheranism. Martin Luther was born in 1483, and he died in 1546. So here we go. Martin Luther was 8 years old when Christopher Columbus set sail from Europe and landed in the Western Hemisphere. Luther was a young monk and priest when Michelangelo was painting the Sistine Chapel in Rome. A few years later, he was a junior faculty member at a new university in small-town Germany, intently studying the scriptures, captivated with an extraordinary ardor for understanding Paul in the Epistle to the Romans. In these days, Luther was tormented by the demand for righteousness before God. I did not love, yes, I hated the righteous God who punishes sinners, and secretly, if not blasphemously, certainly murmuring greatly, I was angry with God. Then, in the midst of that struggle with God, the message of the scriptures became clear, like a long-shut door opening wide. When Luther realized that a merciful God justifies us by faith, I felt I was altogether born again and had entered paradise itself through open gates. What Luther discovered is the freedom of Christians trusting God's mercy in Christ. As he later wrote, quote, "Faith is God's work in us. It changes us and makes us to be born anew of God. This faith is a living, busy, active, mighty thing. It is impossible for it not to be doing good works incessantly. Faith is a living, daring confidence in God's grace, so sure and certain that believers would stake their lives on it 1,000 times. This discovery set Luther's life on a new course, both his own life and his public service as a preacher and teacher. When church-endorsed sales teams came to the Wittenberg area in October 1517, Luther was concerned that the promotion and sale of indulgences undermined the promise of God's unreserved mercy in Jesus and the faith that trusts his promise. And those indulgences are when people could purchase forgiveness of sins. So if they did a horrendous sin, they might have to pay more. Maybe it was just a little sin, they didn't have to pay very much, but they had to pay in order to get their sins forgiven. Luther's 95 Theses, or Disputation on the Power and Efficacy of Indulgences, became the first of a lifelong stream of books, sermons, letters, essays, even hymns, in which he expressed his confidence in this life-giving promise from God, the gospel, and its liberating implications for all of life in church and society. So what Luther did 500 years ago, we are still living proof that that's exactly what we need to hear. Our lives are justified by faith and grace. So thank you so much, and hope to see you soon.